I think my first reaction was, oh no, here we go. Like, here's the start of just, I know all that was going on in the fall. It was definitely my first reaction.
And then how about as far as when you told your players, I'm sure your players already knew, but when the discussion came, all right, we're pushed until the 19th, I'm sure they know from their classmates from the fall and what they went through. Did they say anything about that too?
Yeah, no, my players were definitely disappointed as well. I think we had the hope that they were moving the season up earlier to try to get us in the gym. So I think we were all like, okay, so we'll at least get started. And then it got bumped even further back. And it was like, all right, so now we really don't know what's going on, and what our normal preseason routine is obviously out the window. Um, so yeah, they were definitely disappointed, and I feel bad for them.
Coach Coach Coloney, I think kind of looking at specifically when I heard that the season was originally going to start on the 5th, then I saw that it got pushed. I kind of said to myself, in some ways, maybe this is a good thing, because now it gives time to see if somehow we can. I mean, every day it seems like the cases go up, but try to figure out a way and give time to allow these athletes and also the sports to be able to be played.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many different things that we as coaches probably think about and try to assume based on the challenging decisions that our elected officials and people who are in charge of the CIAC and the FCAC and our athletic directors, all those people trying to make decisions that are going to mitigate the health risk, but also, recognize the importance of getting the kids back in the gym. I think that your comment, Chris, is probably one that Coach Burns and I share, and that, listen, if that's what it's going to take, another 7 weeks, and we're going to be able to get in the gym, then great, right? If that's the belief, and maybe things settle down. But I think the uncertainty surrounding everything is the thing that makes us uneasy, because this is no longer about basketball. I think it's about whether you're in kindergarten or you're in graduate school. I don't think it's a good time to be a student right now. I think there's a lot more questions than answers. And something that, I've known Coach for a really long time, and something that I know that her and I really pride ourselves on is the relationships that we have with our student athletes. And so, I guess my fear is stringing them along and then not being able to provide an experience that's going to give them an outlet to escape this nightmare that we are all experiencing in a different way. I like to say, and I say this to my kids, that we're in the same storm, but in different boats. And this could affect, me in a different way, that it's going to affect a senior, that it's going to affect a junior, that it's going to affect a freshman. So, I'm hopeful and confident that the people who are making these decisions on our behalf and on the behalf of our student athletes they have their heads in the right place. But I just think the uncertainty and the inconsistency of the entire pandemic adds a stress component to this that is unsettling for sure.
There's so many things that have been as far as decisions, and I know each state is different. And I know, and I'm not going to go into the other things because that's not important. The point is, as far as the sport aspect and basketball in of itself. But the point I guess I'm trying to make is, I guess looking at what the fall was, and kind of in some ways, because I was talking to players, I was talking to coaches, and kind of in almost, in some ways living through that and seeing the stress. And I mean, I had a coach from Platt, he's the head coach of the football program. He told me he slept 4 hours in 4 days because of the stress and not being able to know, 1 minute we're playing, next minute we're not. And then the CIC says something else, and then DPH will squash it, and I'll stay with Coach Coloney here. Kind of just, I guess, take me into what is your day to day, because I'm sure every day it's on your mind. Like, is this the day that we're going to be told we're not playing? Or is this the day that there's going to be a rumor that we could be playing?
Yeah, it's a thing that's on my mind every day, is what can I do to make this time better for our kids? I don't think anything else really matters, because obviously, I want to play, but obviously I want it to be safe, and I want the student athletes who play with us to be able to go home to their families and not be worried about this virus. And so, I spend a lot of time, and Coach Burns is a better person to ask this question to, because she's doing some real creative things. Every day I think about how I can make the time that we don't have together in person more valuable, as we're apart. And I think there are challenges that come along with that, certainly, but also, how do you differentiate those experiences from a Zoom class that they might have to sit in on? Or how do we make it so that it's not transactional, and so that it's personal and that it's beneficial? That's the only thing I really think about. How can I be creative and send them something to think about, or motivate them in some capacity, without being disingenuous, I guess. And I don't think that, I don't approach anything like that, but I think that after a while, we're on month 9 of this, or whatever it is. I'm not a huge math guy, so Coach Burns can do the math on that. But whatever month it is, no day has been the same, and we're all kind of just navigating it together. And so, my head is at, how can I make any type of downtime, more beneficial for them? The last thing I want is for this to run its course, and then we get an opportunity to play, but I get some student athletes who are saying, you know what, I just don't have the passion, or I'm just not into it right now, or I just don't want to do it. And I think those are real concerns. So I'm just thinking about how to enhance these days, weeks, when normally I'd probably be scrimmaging someone right now, and so that's a challenge.
Coach Burns, I guess, to kind of piggyback off of what Coach Coloney said, kind of what are you doing as far as with your players that kind of keep them engaged? And I don't want to say keep their hopes up, because I feel like that's kind of like a flip of a coin, and you kind of can say in one way or another, but just trying to make sure that, I guess, for the most important part, that they are okay mentally, physically, and that, they know that you're there for them, even through, as as Coloney said, a very dark time we're in right now.
Right. Well, yeah, to start with that, I mean, I'm also a high school teacher, so I see lots of teenagers all day long, and they're not themselves. And I mean, none of us really are, but I don't think we've started to address what's happening to the teenagers and younger, the elementary and middle school kids as well, because I don't think they know necessarily how to deal with their emotions, their feelings, what's happening, the repercussions of it. I mean, you think back to high school, you thought that one bad day was the end of the world. You don't realize how long your life can be, and how high school is not the be all end all. And I can't imagine being a high school kid right now in this, like thinking this is it. So it's sad to see them like disconnected and just quiet. Like they wear the masks in school. So even in class, not many kids want to talk. They're like, well, I don't want to talk because nobody else is talking. And half the kids aren't there because it's the hybrid model. And now you got sports that are shut down on them. There's no like outlet for them to just be goofy teenagers. So to your point, we tried doing some Zoom meetings with our team, started a couple weeks ago, and it was a lot of the same of what I was seeing in class, like kids just sitting on the screen, like, well, I'm supposed to be here because coach told me to be here. So here I am on this camera, and just mute. And me and my coaches were talking. We're like, this is not working. Like, this is not what the point is. Like, I don't need you to sit there and listen to me lecture basketball. That's not what we're doing. So we came up with a game where we based it off of one of our favorite practice drills. We split the kids up into groups. They actually picked teams, and one team member was in each of the breakout rooms in the Zoom meeting, and a coach was running different games like Outburst, Family Feud. And if you won a round, you get to go kick back into the main call and tag one of your teammates, and then they go in, and it's like whichever team can get the most points. So, and again, it's one of our drills. So we're like, hey, we're at least at minimum teaching the freshmen how this drill and how our practices work. Our practices are all competition all day long, and survival of the fittest, and a whole lot of smack talk. So we're talking at junk as the kids are coming in and out of calls, and they all like loosened up and actually had fun. And it was a blast to be part of that and just see them be normal again. So Scott Erickson actually had reached out to me and was like, are you doing anything with your team? And I was like, you picked the perfect day to ask because we just did this. So he calls me and I was like a giddy little kid because it was so much fun. And he's like, can I call one of your players? So he calls one of the players and her comment in his article was, we felt normal. And I was like, oh my God, like that's what it felt like for me to see them. But like that they also could express that it's crazy. And it lets you know that like one little Zoom call of just playing some dumb games was the most normal they'd felt in a long time. Like this is heavier and a lot bigger than basketball, what these kids are going through. So, and I mean, back to what Rob is saying, like, I'm just trying to think of ways that I can be there for them. You know, it's not X's and O's right now. It's not what offense or defense we're going to run or how to, you know, help each kid maximize their potential. It's about them as people right now. But we're actually going to play Rob's team in Family Feud on Zoom next week. So we're trying to extend the challenge out to other teams now just to hopefully have some fun.
That's awesome. You better let me know how that goes because I'm really intrigued by that, Coach. I think that's
well, apparently Dave Ruden's covering it. So
oh, perfect. Even better. Why not?
Why not?
Now, you did mention two things that kind of struck me. Being normal again felt normal. And I think that's something that since, you know, and I go back to, you know, I've said this to multiple people who've asked me, oh, hey, you know, have you missed broadcasting? All right, first off, that's a dumb question to ask. And second, I haven't broadcasted a game. And I'm going to remember this probably till the day I die. March 12th, I was driving back from Amherst. I did 2 games. I did a senior night for baseball, and I did a senior night and also what was the final game for hockey up in Amherst. I'm driving back. Now, mind you, I was at Amherst. All sports were played. Everything was a go. I drive back. I felt like every hour I was driving, there was a professional sport being canceled. Yep. NBA, NFL, or not NFL, but you know what I mean. It was like a trickle-down effect. And I felt like ever since then, nothing has been normal. And I think for both you, Coach Coloney, and other coaches to bring some sense of normalcy back and just allow these kids to be able to, you know, get back to what was before the pandemic is very important. I'll stay with Coach Burns here.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think this will be one of those things, hopefully when we get past this, that you'll remember where you were when it all changed. Like just as you can remember being in the car and starting to hear it. I can remember being in school when we got an email being like, we're going to be closed for 2 weeks, but don't tell the kids yet. We don't know how we're handling it. And I'm like, what is this even like? And then it's just everything changed from there on out. Which is, I mean, I would like to see it get back to not, and I don't know if you could go back, but back to some sense of normal for them, which I don't think takes much. And I don't mean to change the topic here, but it's part of my frustration right now with like the ruling for us being considered off season. So by the CIAC, we're off season. And I get why they're doing that. They're trying to deal with superintendents and principals and make everybody happy, and the health department. And they've got a lot on their plate, and they're trying to do the best they can with that information. But they're calling us off season, which means I can't go in the gym with one of my players that's having a tough time and rebound for them. I'm not allowed to do skill development. So I can't just me and one kid. They're at the 3-point line. We're further apart than we are in class. We're in masks. We're hand sanitizing before and after, and just rebound and like let the kid talk. Like that's not allowed right now. And I feel like that's a detriment. But there are some school districts that if a coach is considered coaching for one day, they have to pay them for the whole season. So it's bigger than that, but it's like, it's missing the point on what the kids need. It's not about me trying to scheme and beat Ridgefield. It's maybe one of these kids needs an outlet for a little bit. They're dealing with a lot and we're not allowed to. So that's part of the normal that's being cut off, and it's liability right now. Everything's liability.
Coach Burns, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I tweeted that out a couple days ago about how I feel like there needs to be a discussion, and Coach Coloney, I'm going to get to you right now about why I feel like there needs to be, if there's not going to be a season, then there needs to be a plan in place to allow coaches to be able to coach the players for X amount of time a month. You know, protocol safe. I understand vaccines. There's a lot of stuff to break down into it, but I feel like there needs to be something in place to allow these coaches to coach these athletes, and that way to give them not just normalcy, but also to make up for the lost time that they have not been able to have. I mean, Coach Burns has mentioned it very so eloquently, and I'm sure Coach Coloney, you could probably, plead the case as well to have the coaches be able to work with the players even away from the technical basketball season?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Coach Burns and I talk about it a lot. Like I don't, COVID aside, I think it's crazy that that off-season rule exists in the state of Connecticut. And again, there's reasons that that exist, and that's fine. But I think if there was ever a time to either make an exception or review that, now would be the time. I think what we've done really, really well, and I really mean this, as a nation since March, is we have pivoted and tried to find some silver linings in this whole thing. Because while it's been mostly horrendous, there have been things that have happened that have actually been positive. I think this Zoom call is a really good example of that. I think people have realized their ability to utilize technology to the best of their ability to enhance or supplement, or in some cases, preserve people's jobs and livelihoods. And so like little things like that I think we've actually done a good job with. I really wish that that would be looked at. And I think Coach is right when she talks about, certainly liability being first and foremost, but then, salaries and all that other stuff. I think the most important thing is I would love to do exactly what Coach just said. Go and be, a rebounder and a sounding board. And I think that, I think many of our colleagues would like to do that too. And it's sad because it really only, it definitely affects Coach and me. Like I'm going a little insane, but I think it's really only negatively affecting the kids in the long term, and they need these outlets more than ever, because they're so limited in what they can control. Like I think we're all limited in this sense of what we can control. But I'm a little bit older, and so I can go and take a drive, or I can go and do what I need to do. But I our kids can't necessarily have that luxury. And Coach has like I said at the beginning, like a great relationship with her athletes, and I haven't been at Ridgefield more than a year, so I'm working on that. But I think we're starting to really build some nice momentum and have good rapport. And it's really unfortunate that the relationship aspect has a chance to be affected because of this. And so that's definitely what we're missing. I think, it'd be great to be at a scrimmage right now. It'd be great to say everything's normal. COVID never happened. But I think in looking at the situation that we're in, if we were given the ability to not have those sanctions and be able to, while adhering to the protocols that the state and government says are necessary, have that engagement with our student athletes in person, that would go a long way.
Coach Coloney, if you're ever going insane, you could always text me and we could argue about college football. Because I love some of your tweets about Notre Dame, and I don't know if I've said a couple things about Dallas going to the NFL side. So I'm here for you if you want to do that. Help you out a little bit.
Yeah, I think that people probably are sick of my obsession with Notre Dame. So I put it on Twitter and let it marinate there. But that's fine.
But guys, I really do appreciate you both coming on. I think, I know we've kind of got off track and wanted to talk about the games, but I felt like this was way more important, talking about the players and their well-being. And another thing too that, I pushed on hard in the fall, and I felt like I was one of like 4 or 5 people in the state of Connecticut, was the mental health side. And I'll go to Coach Burns here. I felt like, we talk about the lack of normalcy, not being able to talk to their friends, not being able to have a sense of, routine. I guess that's something that athletes, and I'm a former athlete, played in college, high school, all that. Having a routine is something that I think we, after this virus subsides, hopefully, I don't think many people will take it for granted. But I think the fact that with that and others is a major factor, and the mental health side is huge.
Yeah, no, the mental health side is I think the thing that needs to be focused on a lot right now with people that aren't dealing with, the health protocols. I have nothing to do with that. So I should be focusing on the mental health side. for these kids, because sports not only are routine and disciplined, they're also emotional. You know, you get in the gym and you're going to lose, you're going to get upset, you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to win, you're going to get excited, you're going to compete, you're going to challenge somebody else, you're going to doubt yourself, you're going to push through. Like, sports bring out all the emotions in people in general, and especially kids, and they learn how to develop those things through sport. And now that part is being taken away from them. And there's no substitute for that. I mean, we're trying with Family Feud over Zoom, but it's not the same thing. You know, it's not working on something over and over again and seeing it finally progress. So I am concerned about these kids and what's going to happen to them. I was glad the fall was able to get, you know, games going for all sports. And I know football wasn't able to have 11 on 11, but at least they got some 7 on 7 in. And, you know, soccer, I think they cherished each time they got out on the field. Same with volleyball, field hockey, cross country, all of it. And cheerleading is maybe the only one that didn't get a chance yet. But I don't know for sure. And it's just the winter's tough because we're indoors. So it's like that looming black cloud if you don't play another sport, that if it's taken away completely, then you're over a year without that. The sports become part of who you are. You're without that piece of yourself. So yeah, I hope we figure something out. And you brought it up earlier that there needs to be something. If we can't travel to Ridgefield and play Ridgefield, or travel to, you know, the other side of the state, I get that. But to not let us be with our kids at all in the gym doing something is going to be a detriment. So hopefully the powers that be can figure it out where we get an opportunity to work with them and do something other than Zoom calls.
You know, I understand the rules of why the rules are in place with the CIAC, and, you know, having coaches be with players for a set amount of time. And I know it's, you know, we don't want to deter them from other sports, you know, pulling them away from other coaches and so on. I understand that. But I feel like in the age, and Coach Coloney mentioned this about how 2020 has showed us a lot of positive things with technology, Zoom calls. I think, you know, something I'm about to say, change. There's been a lot of change, some good. You can question some bad. Also, you can question the good. We can go on and on about that. But I feel like if there's going to be, even if the CIAC, and again, probably never going to listen to me because they're going to think I'm crazy, but if they just tried it for a year and said, like I mentioned, you know, maybe for 2 weeks out of the month or for a week. I mean, there's so many ways you can do it. But, and I'll go to Coach Coloney here. I think that if they can just try something, it doesn't hurt to try it. Because basically, not to say that this school year was a wash, but I feel like in some ways, if you can salvage some of it and take with it into the next school year, it's probably the best case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hoping that they're trying to do. So I'm hopeful. Here, I'm going to give you exactly how I interpreted their ruling, right? They moved the season to the 19th. My first reaction was, I'm hopeful that they're doing this because they think it's going to get better and we're going to have a window to play. Like, that's my job, is to hope that, right? But I think secondary to basketball, like, you know, Coach just talked on the mental health stuff. Like, our number one concern is to try to make sure that we can do something for our kids. And, you know, I'm not kidding when I say this. Like, if they came to us and said, you know, you can't play any games this year, but you can practice 5 days a week, I guarantee that we would have a full gym every week. And it wouldn't be perfect, right? But it would be better than nothing. It would be an opportunity to get in the gym and to you know, we say this. I say this at the beginning of every trial. I'm going to share a secret with you. Kids show up, and the first thing I say is, like, you know, this is a safe place for you. You can leave your baggage at the door. You can come in here and you can drop any concern that you have about an algebra test, about something going on at home, about something going on with your friends, something going on with your boyfriend, whatever the case is, you can leave that baggage at the door. You can come in here and you can forget about it for 2 hours and you can just play. And that's you know, I had a coach say that to me once, and that was amazing, because I'm a little neurotic. And so, you know, when somebody said, hey, you can just chill out and just come in and play, that did so much for me. Now, you have to pick up your baggage on the way out. We tell them that too. You got to bring it with you. You can't leave it for me. But, you know, to alleviate some of those concerns, especially in a year like this, what a difference that would make, just to come in and to forget about it, you know. And we could give them, you know, to Coach's point, then we could give them the X's and the O's and we could complicate their brains and make it, so that they're not even thinking about COVID. They forget the word for 2 hours. And the powerful impact that I think that would have is immeasurable, really. And so, honest truth, I'm hopeful that we can do something on January 19th. I think actually I had some trepidation when they moved the season up or back or whatever you want to say from the initial, it was supposed to start last Monday. And then they said, we're starting the 21st and then, the 23rd. And I'm like, wow, it's certainly not getting better to move it up sooner. And so I'm going to stay positive and optimistic, but I want so badly to be able to say to not just to my kids, but to every team that we play against. I have a relationship with those coaches and with many of those kids, going back to the time that I spent in Wilton. And I think, I care about all of them. And I take this responsibility very seriously because I really do enjoy it. And so it kills me to not be able to provide an escape and an opportunity to foster the development and the passion that these young people have. It kills me. And so, I am hopeful that come January, even if we can't play games, even if they say worst case scenario, you can't play games, I hope that we can practice. I hope that we can provide them something. And so I'm going to choose to continue to be optimistic in that regard and hope that we get lucky.
Rob Coloney, the psychiatrist. Where were you when I was in college, when I was going through between tests and playing baseball and the nervousness I had? Where were you for that? Because you sound like a psychiatrist.
I was probably going through it, man. I'm not perfect by any stretch. But I think, Coach creates a family feud game. And I've been on God's honest truth. I've been sitting here trying to think of things that wouldn't be a waste of their time. And she said that, I'm like, oh, I need to get in touch with Coach. We need to hop in on that. So it's that sharing of ideas. We're not all that different. We just are trying to, it's not about me and my concerns through this COVID thing or about, it's about, this is a responsibility that I have and how can I make it better for somebody? And so I think about that a lot, and I don't have all the answers, and I'm definitely not perfect at it, and I definitely will make mistakes, but I think that those are things that we constantly ask ourselves as coaches is how can you got to practice what you preach at a certain point. I can't tell them that basketball is about life lessons, and then when we're in the middle of the biggest life lesson that any of us have experienced, that I can't have a failure myself, or that I can't make a mistake, or that I can't try to be creative to remind them that, we're going to get through this. And I do believe that we're closer to the end than the beginning. And I've said that for a few weeks too, but that's our job. And so that's what Coach does. That's what I do. We if I was a good basketball coach, maybe I wouldn't be coaching in high school. I don't know. I don't know.
Don't say stop. Don't say that. Hey, I've always believed in this. There's a reason for everything. There's a reason why I'm working at ShopRite. Can't tell you why. I have no idea. There's a reason why you're at Ridgefield, Coach Burns. There's a reason why you're at Stamford, And I think to go back to my broadcast side, even though that's been on pause since March 12th, again, told you I'm never going to forget that. I just think that coaches, and I hope this is going to happen after the pandemic, because I know, pre-pandemic, I felt like coaches were kind of taken for granted. I think a lot of people were like, oh, let's bash this coach for this, that, and another. But I think after the fact, and I'll go to Coach Burns here for a final answer here because we're just about running out of time, kind of looking at the coaches and what they're doing during this pandemic, trying to help the athletes and keep them not just on the right path, but making sure they don't go on the wrong path and they don't go somewhere where you could lose them and potentially even longer than just a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's we as coaches worry a lot about these kids, and I don't think they know how much half the time. And it's to the credit of a lot of coaches, and people show it in different ways, and we usually share our feelings for them through sport. But now we're having to pivot off that, and it's not, I'm not sharing my mentorship with you through basketball. Now I got to find another way. But yeah, I mean, coaches are definitely out there doing lots of creative things and trying to find ways to connect with the kids. And I think we're going to have a big job ahead of us, even when we do return to play. And even when we are into next season, I think there's going to be some long-term effects here for some of these kids. And it's going to be on us I'm going to steal Rob's baggage quote at the beginning of practice too. It's supposed to be a place where they can go and forget their stress and troubles and, zone out for a little bit. And they're losing that right now. So, we're trying to figure that out.
Hey, both of you are doing a fantastic job, and I really give you, Coach Coloney, Coach Burns, and the rest of the coaches in Connecticut. I've said this every day, round of applause, whatever I can. You guys are doing everything possible to be able to help the athletes, as well as dealing with not just your programs, but also back home with your families and such, because that's another side as well. I mean, to go back to Coloney about the baggage, and I'm not saying that's baggage, but still, it's a lot to deal with. But, we've just about run out of time. But Coach Coloney, thanks so much for being able to come on again. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Keep up the good work and continue to give the students a voice in Connecticut. I know that I know they really appreciate it. So thank you.
Coach Burns, thank you so much for, first time. Not bad, right?
No, not bad at all.
Hopefully I didn't steer you away. Hopefully you'll come back on in the near future. I'd love to be able to have you back.
Yeah, no, I would love to be back. We could talk more about this off-season rule when it's not COVID time. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime. I'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. And remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent, and I'm on a journey to find them all. Have a good one, everybody. Be well.